Stormy Daniels was suggesting that she only felt safe around Trump in public. To your point, victimhood was the theme. And the judge struck that from testimony. I mean, that's in no way relevant to this case.
But the jury already heard it.
But the jury already heard it. And Carrie Kupak, who's in the courtroom, said, imagine if you're a juror on this case and you are a female juror and you are hearing these details. You cannot get that out of your mind. These jurors are human. And this is why Stormy Daniels should not be on the stand.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually why Kayleigh McEnany doesn't want Stormy Daniels on the stand, but she brings up a good point. If you say something and then the judge strikes it, which the judge did, an important note that she acknowledges that we will return to, so keep that in your mind, the judge striking something that would be damaging to Donald Trump, the jury has still heard it. And I think that Kayleigh McEnany is right to point out that you can't unhear something. Now, I'm not sure that like female jurors are going to be shocked by the idea that some women might not feel safe in private with Donald Trump. He has, after all, faced literally dozens of allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault, including rape. So I don't know that that's necessarily breaking huge ground there. But I also think it's interesting that when Stormy Daniels says, I only felt safe around him in public, Kayleigh McEnany takes that and twists it into a victimhood complex. I will remind you, when Stormy Daniels was in private with Trump, he forced himself on her under the guise of offering a business opportunity. So I think she's kind of justified in being a little bit concerned about those private meetings when she already knows how it goes with Donald Trump. Now, that said, before we discuss, there's attacks on the process. There's attacks on Stormy Daniels as a witness. And then there's also just attacks on Stormy Daniels. So this is a big part of how Fox News is attempting to reassure their viewers that there's nothing to worry about here. Take a look at the way that they talk about Stormy Daniels.
Number two, let's say the transaction did take place. I'm talking about the physical one. Her being surprised that she was going to a hotel room alone with a man to have body congress is like Pete Sampras being surprised at being invited to a tennis court and you want to see his serve. And then he says, I started shaking when I saw a tennis racket. I didn't know what to do with it. It's like, bro, you've won 17 majors. And it's this woman saying that she blacked out because she was so nervous is like a surgeon saying he barfed at the sight of blood. It's a little hard to believe.
It's very hard to believe because that's what she got paid to do on film. I mean, it wasn't even like she was used to doing it in the corners of darkness. She was having sex in front of many cameras.
Well lit.
Dear God. Okay, so that was two of them, Kennedy, Harris Faulkner. Kennedy is like a leftover from MTV or whatever. Now she just does, right-wing commentary on Fox. Harris Faulkner is one of like their straight news people. She's one of the reputable people at Fox News. But the message was the same from both. She should have known better. So a guy forced himself on you. You're in a hotel room and you're surprised by that, okay? Sure, I mean, this is the guy that we worship as like the savior of America, and he offered to put you on The Apprentice so that he could force himself on you, and that doesn't bother us at all. But you shouldn't have been surprised. And also, how can you be traumatized by a sexual experience? It's very much on the line between consensual and non-consensual when you are, and let's be very clear about what they're saying, you're a whore. How dare you pretend that you could be traumatized by a sexual experience when you've had sex for money? You've had sex on camera. You don't get to be grossed out by any of this. Anything that happens is game because of your past. That is their op-ed side in Kennedy. That is their straight news side in Harris Faulkner. And that is what they're telling their overwhelmingly male audience on Fox News. These porn stars don't deserve consideration, and you don't have to pay attention to them talking about their trauma. Look at the disgusting stuff they've done. I should have expected it, Sharon, but still the willingness that they had to just jump in and start like shaming her and attacking her is really gross. What do you think?
Yeah, 10 toes down. And I would say I'm surprised by Harris's behavior. I'm not, though. I mean, look where they work. Look what they signed a contract to do. This whole thing of distraction and nuts and sluts and you deserved it and your skirt was too short and on and on and on, that a grown woman can't make decisions about her body and what and who she chooses to share her body with. It's disgusting. And I love it how they're so focused on this woman, okay, who's made her decisions when the reason we're talking about her and the act is because of what's his face, who stole Hugh Hefner's silk pajamas. Okay, that was the inference. I come out of the bathroom and you're in your boxers. I didn't see it and I can't unsee it up here. They are to be ashamed of themselves because they understand what you explained about 2-3 minutes ago. They understand what women go through when you're alone with certain octopus-like men. Trump is one. He's proven one.
That was outnumbered. So of course there was also a guy on the panel. And so he said, and this is really going to buttress one of your points. He was like, they're just doing this to hurt him. They're just doing this to embarrass him. Well, first of all, you're doing all of what you're doing right now just to hurt Stormy Daniels, who's never done anything to you. And he's like, this is just done to hurt Trump. Now, we're going to get into later what the actual legal purpose of having all of this out there was. And Harris Faulkner actually will describe that. But I love the description of this just being done to hurt Trump or embarrass him because it's so abstract. It's like the media, it's like when the media refuses to talk about a policy and they just want to talk about the effect that like having a stance on it will have in terms of optics. Like you ideally should be able to do both because obviously the optics matter for elections and all that, but the policy matters too. And in this, like, why do you keep saying that this is just done to embarrass him without saying whether it should embarrass him or it should shame him? Like to the yappy little guy on Outnumbered, does this not bother you? And to Kennedy and Harris Faulkner, this is your savior. You guys have been going to bat for him for the better part of a decade now. The fact that he went 2 months after the birth of Barron and started hounding Stormy Daniels and offering her opportunities that he had no interest in actually making good on so that he could force himself on her. Does that not bother you? And by the way, I don't think it does. I really don't think that they particularly care, which is fine. I mean, it's not, but say that. Say to your audience, we don't care that he's a serial philanderer. We don't care that he's regularly forces himself on women. It just doesn't have anything to do with anything for us. We're here for the tax cuts and we're willing to do these culture war stuff to get them. So he goes and he assaults women. I don't care. Just be honest about it at this point. It's the refusing to actually discuss. Like this is a commentary show, Outnumbered, and they refuse to actually comment on what they're talking about. They only comment on the fact that other people have comments about what they're talking about. What do you actually think about it? For me, it's reprehensible. I'm willing to say that. They're not. Now, I want to go to what I alluded to with why this is coming up. But also, in the beginning, I alluded to the fact that the judge had stricken her saying, Stormy Daniels saying that she didn't feel safe with him in private. Well, they're going to get into other things that were struck in this.
Harris, the judge said the degree of detail is unnecessary. So why do we continue to hear the degree of detail?
It looks like Judge Mershon is letting this testimony in because prosecutors say it shows the story that Trump wanted to conceal by using falsified business records around the election, meaning all of that sex talk. I mean, the texture of it about, well, he didn't have on a condom, but in my adult business life, that was always required. I mean, some of the details are beyond salacious. They are pornographic, quite frankly, and that's her specialty. So I would imagine she'd be good at that.
What was the purpose of that last bit from Harris Faulkner? Like the details of him forcing himself on her and her not enjoying it are pornographic. So I bet she'd be good at it. She's already describing it as a traumatizing event. You already know that. You hate that she's talking about the trauma that she experienced, Harris Faulkner. That's what's really going on. But Harris Faulkner also pointed out that there are yet more things that the judge, first of all, she argued why the prosecution says people need to know this, about how damaging these details could be for the election. It's why he would go to the lengths that he did to hide them. But there's now multiple things that the judge has pushed back and said, we're not going to get into those details. By the way, the fact that the affair happened 2 months after Barron was born is not going to be discussed in the trial. We know that. So my question to the right wing is, since this judge is so conflicted, why does he keep blocking these things? Why do we not find out about them? She's not going to do the description of the genitalia, which, by the way, could show that the experience actually happened, that she has this detailed like memory of it. We're not getting that either. Why not? If all of this is just designed to humiliate him and to hurt him, why does the judge keep barring the most damaging, the most humiliating facts? They acknowledge that he's barring it, but then they go right back to pretending that the entire thing is lawfare or whatever. What do you think, Sharon?
I think you're exactly right. It's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy 101. And I hadn't even thought about that. But if she testified, probably be about one sentence, real short testimony about the genitalia. Perhaps others could say, yep, that's him. And I think that this judge is trying to bend over backwards and be fair. I'm not a lawyer. I think all of it should come in because, again, you're McNasty here, Donald Trump. You did this. You had unprotected sex with a 27-year-old. Could have gotten pregnant, I would think. That's a possibility. That could have happened. You did these things, and it should be ferreted out completely. But again, I don't know the law. I just know hypocrisy when I hear it and when I can see it. And I definitely see it here. When you're not dealing in reality and truth or fairness, you have to do this constant pivot all over the place and twist yourself into knots. So that's what they're doing. And that last comment by Harris Faulkner, you deserved it. Yes, you're a whore. It's disgusting to me. Again, these are women. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, John. When you're a woman, you get to be a certain age. You've been through things. You've seen things. You've been uncomfortable in places and with people.
Yeah, 100%. And, theoretically, there are, I would imagine, many conservative women that would like to have news they could watch that doesn't frequently degrade them. But unfortunately, that doesn't exist. Like, we know that Fox News is incredibly politically biased, but it's now been a 3-day period where, was it Rachel Campos Duffy made a joke about Paul Pelosi's skull being bashed in with a hammer by a right-wing attempted assassin. And now Harris Faulkner is just mocking a woman for a traumatizing sexual experience she had with Donald Trump. It's not just the political bias. It's just gross. We should be better than this. The right loves to pretend we just want to go back to the 1950s when people were wholesome and good. You guys watched the most disgusting, violent, degrading, and condescending news on the internet. And I say that as a person that broadcasts on YouTube. Fox is worse, okay? And maybe we don't wear ties on YouTube or whatever, but that's worse. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.